Call to order the Groveland Township regular board meeting for August 13th. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. Okay, Sandy, would you take roll call?
Robert DePalma.
Here.
Pamela Mazik. Here. David Axe.
Here.
Jim Christopher.
He's excused.
And Dale Casey.
Here. Okay. Has everybody received a copy of the agenda for tonight? And if so, are there any comments or changes to it that anybody wants to make? Not a motion.
I have one. I think it's on the new one. I think. No, it isn't.
Well,
That's the email. I need an F.
Oh, and
I need a email for our inspector, building inspector, and
okay.
enforcement officer.
Okay, very good. Thanks for that.
Excuse me.
Okay, any other changes?
The last we discussed really.
I'm not putting that on the agenda. Thank you.
If there are no other changes, then a motion to approve the agenda is accepted.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second. Any other questions or comments from the board? Any from the audience? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, okay. And then we also have the agenda, or the minutes from the previous meeting, which is both the fire board and the regular meeting for last month.
Make a motion to approve both fire board and township board minutes.
So seeing the changes. Is there a second to that? Second. Any other questions or comments from the board? From the audience? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, they're approved. Moving on, financials, budget amendments. Pam, is there anything you wanted to do on that?
I do, yes, there is only one budget amendment this month, and it's going to be in the fire fund, Fund 206, under line item Department 336-702-011 for Steve McGee. When he extended his retirement date, when he did receive 2 additional paychecks and then the 1-week vacation, which caused then the $9,394 to be short in that line item. So I would like to make a motion to transfer that money on a budget amendment from Capital Outlay Reserve Department 901-975 to cover that.
Second.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Anything from the audience? Eddie, would you take a roll call?
Robert DePalma.
Yes.
Pamela Mazik.
Yes.
David Axe.
Yes.
Jim Christopher excused. Dale Casey.
Yes. Okay, next is the accounts payable.
Okay, accounts payable. For this month, what we paid out so far, on the township side, $181,449.51. And it is a little bit exceptionally high this month because we did pay the road commission for the trip road paving, $122,942.
That's just the first payment.
That's just the first payment. There's another one to come. We did also pay for our chloriding, $33,655, and I had a large expenditure for CDBG expenses of almost $17,000, of which we will get reimbursed for that. So that's $181,449.51 on the township side. On the fire side, $7,139.61. That would be my motion.
Second.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Any from the audience? Okay, would you take a roll call?
Pamela Mazik.
Yes.
David Axe.
Yes.
Jim Christopher is excused. Dale Casey.
Yes.
And Robert DePalma.
Yes. For financial reports, Dave, I know you just got back.
I just got back. I don't have them.
Okay, so next
And
month.
same thing for the investment
So
reports.
no action.
Okay, moving on to public hearings. We have no public hearings. The first item on the agenda is the presentation from our auditor, Ken Pelka, to do the 27 and 18 audit. Exceptionally good year, Ken. So,
That's okay with the board, can I stand over there so my
Please do.
back isn't covered?
yeah.
Well, first of all, I just want to I extend our thank you to the board for the opportunity to continue to serve as your auditors here. I appreciate it very much. Also appreciate all the assistance that we received from Shelley, all the ladies up here, and the officials that we did throughout our audit. We spent probably close to a week going through everything, and overall the audit went very smooth, and we were very happy with the results. So what I'd like to do tonight is just go over the high points as far as where the township stands financially as of March 31st. If you'd be so kind to open up your financial statements, that's the thicker of the reports that you have there, and turn to page 20. And this is the report that summarizes the revenues and expenditures by fund for the township. So you'll see on that first column there, you have your general fund. Now, under generally accepted accounting principles, we also have to include with those numbers your infrastructure fund. So you know how the township accounts for the general and infrastructure separately as two separate funds. Under our principles, we have to include both of those under the general fund. And in a few minutes, we'll go over both of those funds by detail. But in the general fund, you can see your total revenues were just under 1.2 million, which includes your taxes, your state share revenues, and your interest income, and various other revenues that came in, licenses and permits and so on. Total operating expenditures were just under $829,000. So for the year, you had a surplus of $350,083. And then in addition to that, you also received your interest and principal payments on the property that you had sold. So with that included, plus the transfer in that came in from the fire department, your overall surplus was $398,922. Okay, so that will be
almost a record year.
Yeah, we'll see that here in a little bit in the graphs. So after everything was said and done, you started the year with 4.5, almost 4.6 million in your fund balance, and you ended with 4,959,226. Now, as individuals, we look at that and say, wow, that's a lot of money. But keep in mind, you've got a lot of projects coming up, including the development of the property and a lot of road projects. So I want to caution the board and not to think that this is all surplus.
Our operating is also in that.
Exactly, yeah. And so while we're talking about it, flip over to page 55. And this shows the breakout between the general fund and the infrastructure fund. So you can see just the general fund by itself, the surplus was $386,818, and then you had a surplus in your infrastructure fund of $12,104. So the general fund on its own had just under 3.6 million in its fund balance, and the infrastructure fund had just over 1.3 million in its fund balance. So
in reality, part of that actually, that 3 million is kind of infrastructure money. We just don't always move it over to the infrastructure fund.
Yeah, and that's just what I wanted to get to, because you're planning on spending monies for this development of the property, and then plus all of your roads, which is going to exceed what you have in your infrastructure fund itself. So you will have to move money over from the general fund to the infrastructure fund. Okay? Are we good on that point there?
I think so.
Flip back to page 20, and let's just take a quick look at our fire fund. And you can see our total revenues were $1,463,957. Your operating expenses were just over 1.2 million. So in the fire fund, before it made the transfer to the general fund of $10,000, it had a surplus of $238,587. After that transfer, the surplus was $228,000. You started the year with $1,159,754 in there, and finished the year just under 1.4 million. Again, I want to caution the board, you can look at your operating expenditures and they're just over $1.2 million, okay? That does not include any major capital outlay. The fire department did not buy any major items this past year. So when you look at that, just 1 year's of expenditures, that pretty much eats up your whole fund balance, all right? So you collect these taxes, they all come in by the end of March or so. You really need that money to get you through the rest of the year. And I think we talked a little bit about this last year. You really need to look at calculating how much should I be transferring aside for some major capital purchases, because it's going to come sooner or later. So I know I'm probably preaching to the choir, but you guys,
That's okay.
okay, your building department, your building fund itself had a small surplus of just under $18,000. You started the year with 705,457, ended the year with just over 723,000 in there.
That's pretty consistent with what the state guides are for the building department. If you remember a few years ago, we actually lent it money for 3 or 4 years.
Correct.
And
So
so,
down years.
out of a $700 and some thousand budget, if we're only 18 plus, the state's never going to complain about that, because
Correct.
that's pretty close to even, which they want in the building department. Okay.
Okay, is there any other items that you wanted to talk about as far as the numbers go? It's kind of just an overall picture of things.
I know one of the things we had talked about when we went on the fire department budget is this one here is anomalously high compared to what they've been for the last number of years. And so one of the things, just to bring the whole board up to speed on it, is you had suggested and offered that when we get to the end of the first quarter here with the transition, that you and I and Kevin would be able to sit down and kind of go over and do some projections on where we think the revenue is going to be, because this is a very good year, but it's not typical of the years.
Best we've had in a long time.
Okay.
Exactly right. Okay, you want to take a quick look at your graphs? My favorite part of the presentation here, my coloring book. Okay, so the first graph is our pie chart that shows all of the revenues that come in just to the general fund. So it gives you an idea of almost 50% of your revenues are coming from your state share revenue. They're just over 456,000. You've got your rents and your interest, your charges for services, licenses and permits and so on. So a lot of people will think right away it's all taxes going to the township, but really the township gets very little as far as the taxes.
Totally, the fire department and the township together, I think, are roughly 16%, I believe is what it is. It's about 4% to the township. The balance of the goes to the fire department, and all the rest of the money that comes into the township really gets handed over to the state, the schools, the art institute, the zoo, all the other things that are out of tax.
Okay, the next graph is a picture of your expenditures for the year. As you can see, the tall one this year is your roads. You guys spent a little bit more on roads this year compared to the prior years.
And it'll be more next year too, as the rest of the billing comes in for the trip and getting ready for the other stuff.
Next graph is one of my favorites. It shows your fund balance over the years. It goes all the way back to 2001 for your general fund. As you can see, 2000, right after 2008, it took a little bit of, it took a big dip, and that's when you created that infrastructure fund. And after that, you've got a nice smooth increase each year. Yeah. So as an outsider looking in, it's always good to see. It's not like a roller coaster going up and down. You can tell that you're setting money aside for what you're going to need it for, as far as projects and your roads and so on.
We did a couple of things though after the 8-9 tax collapse, whatever you want to call it. We also made some cuts in the township office besides moving the money into the infrastructure fund, so we lowered some of the operating costs in comparison to that. One of the things that happened there in 2010 that shows up a little bit between 10 and 11 is the revenue sharing dollars we got took an 11% hit because the 2010 census was smaller than the 2000 census, and that's the one that we operate under right now for revenue share until the 2020 census, which we're hopeful will be close back to what we were in 2000.
I remember being surprised that you guys actually lost residents.
11%. And unfortunately, you're stuck with it for 10 years until the next census comes.
We didn't actually lose a lot of them, say, what I consider like a core part of our township up here. You know, we need to have residents that have lived there for years and years. It was more along
The 2 mobile homes got
Mobile home
decimated,
parks, really.
and the
just
foreclosures went up to about 110 kind of thing at the peak. So the two mobile homes and the foreclosures together constituted 11%. From a state share revenue perspective, they don't really care if they're living in a mobile home or a traditional site-built home. It's a head count issue. So
You always kind of hope it balances itself out, but we didn't issue a lot of permits or anything during that time either. So.
even since then, we just had Carrie, I think, pulled up our building permits for the last 8 years, and the average for the last 8 years is about 4 houses a year, whereas prior to 2008, we were averaging 28 to 32 homes a year. So
Yes.
even though it's fine, we had 4 or 5 years ago. It's getting better, but it's still nowhere near what it was. The hope is, frankly,
You'll
that
come back.
fixing those 2 mobile home parks that both went bankrupt. This one went bankrupt. Somebody bought it a couple years ago, took out all the old dilapidated mobile homes and put about, I think, 80 or 90 new ones in there and filled it up. The one down on the other end is going through the same process, but they're not done with it yet. So our hope is that it gets done between now and 2000. And Patty and I met with some folks from the Census Bureau because they have a group of people that are set up within the census group to try and help you figure out how to promote getting your census count up. So we met with a lady there the other day in my office and are going to be getting some assistance from them on a couple of ideas that we've heard bounced around that would help hopefully get all the people in the township to complete their census filling. I suspect that statistically, I think what happens is usually the traditional homes are fairly good about filling it out, but sometimes because there's a higher degree of transient residents in the mobile home parks, they don't always fill it out. And there's some things we're going to take a look at doing to try and make sure all of them get counted in that, because that directly affects our revenue sharing. There was an 11% cut in our revenue sharing as well.
Okay, next to that is your fire department. It shows its fund balance over the year, back to 2008. As you can see, you pretty much have leveled out between 1 and 1.3 million or so. So this past year was a good year as far as the fire department went, with the SAFER grant coming in.
Save the grant.
There were a few other things, no big spending on capital outlay, so that's where you see the increase. So it's just under the high point where it was in 2015.
Okay.
The only other thing I just wanted to go over with the board is your letter of comments and recommendations. We did have three comments that I'd like to just go over.
There's others.
It's the
You search
3-page
hard
letter.
for those.
What's that?
I said you search hard for this though.
What do you do? Gotta show something.
I know.
The first one is regarding your policy that you require 2 signatures on all checks. You did find 4 checks out of the several thousand that you write that only had 1 signature. So we have to list that out there regarding your policy. The second one, I'd just like to talk about a little bit here, and this is something we've discussed quite a bit with Dave, regarding the personal property tax reimbursement. As you know, the personal property tax is being phased out. So in order to try to help the townships, the state of Michigan has come up with this reimbursement. And it's through a separate department at the Department of Treasury. And they calculate how this reimbursement should be allocated, okay? Or they suggest to you how it should be allocated. Number one place it should go to is to make sure you still have your public safety. So if the board wants to, it can put all of it into the fire fund, which is what Dave has done over the past couple of years. Or you can allocate it based on their suggestion, okay? And in your case, some of it could have gone to the general fund. It's totally up to the board, and so we're just suggesting here that the board make some type of motion or resolution. You don't have to do it tonight.
Well, it's actually on the agenda.
Oh, okay.
Do you want to do it?
Okay, so then you know where I'm coming from on it. As long as it shows transparency that the board trustees understand what's happening here, as far as where the money should go. The third one, just a small item, we found one of your unemployment reports didn't have one of the employees listed on it. It has been, Patty's corrected that. So it's just something we have to watch for each quarter.
Yes, we corrected that.
And that sums everything up. Any questions, comments?
Thank you, Ken. I look forward to sitting down with you and Kevin when we get to the end of the first quarter. Hang on a second. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Okay.
Hi, Sue Taylor, 508 North Branch. You kept referring to development of property. I'm just curious what property?
The 90 acres that the township's owned for about 35, 40 years that's on Grange Hall Road where you get off the expressway, the gravel pit where the Staplex site was going to be.
Okay,
That's the property that we're trying to make a plan for how we want to get it developed so that we can start going to some people and see if we can get the kind of project down there we want that'll be in line with the master plan and frankly take advantage of the fact that the ORV park is opening. So we want to see if we can get some kinds of support things to those kinds of activities there. But that's the development he's talking about.
okay.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, well, if not, thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Always good to work with you.
Next item on the agenda is unfinished business. There's nothing there. Under new business, we're going to move, the first item on the agenda is to discuss the MERS conference that's coming up. I think we all have the paperwork on that. And I kind of think since there's a lot of retirements coming up and stuff that we probably should go with the summit. So, what's the board's wish? I mean, I'll go if anybody else wants to go. I think it's worthwhile. I'll bring back the notes on it, but I think somebody
should go.
Okay.
And somebody, but I think
It might be good for Patty to go.
I think it might be good for Patty to go.
Could you be willing to go?
Yes.
Okay. Now why don't we do that? Okay. Pardon? I don't think so. Yeah. But Patty will have to pick up when Pam does repair. Pam will have to pick up the first week, so it's probably good for her to get that information. So I guess based on that, make a motion that I and Patty be able to go to MERS. I think it's in Grand Rapids. Yeah, Grand Rapids. October 4th and 5th.
And that's
Second.
early enough before election too, so, yes.
Is there a second to that?
Yes.
Dave, any other questions or comments from the board? Any from the audience? Patty, would you take a roll call on it?
David Axe.
Yes.
Jim Christopher is excused. Dale Kaysen.
Yes.
Robert Tolman.
Yes.
And Pamela Mason.
Okay, and since
Yes.
you're here, Patty, can I ask you to make sure you get us
Yes.
signed up for that tomorrow? Okay.
Yes.
Because I think there's an early push on it. Okay. The next item on the agenda is something that we've been looking forward to, and that's to discuss the promotion of Assistant Chief Kevin Mason to Chief. I can say this in all sincerity. There is nobody that I think I have a higher degree of faith in, that I have been more impressed with in the last year, in his ability to not only come up with excellent suggestions for the fire department, but to also, I think, do a very sterling job of educating the entire board on a number of issues that I don't think we were fully aware of. And so, Kevin, without any further delay, come up here for a second, okay? And I can tell you the board was unanimous in this. No one altered any or suggestions or anything, but I appreciate your efforts. There's nobody that is more committed to the citizens here, and nobody that I know is more committed to trying to preserve the Groveland Fire Department. So, with a great deal of pleasure, congratulations. David, as you know, in all good things, there must be a cake. We're going to take a few minutes break here, and we're going to have a cake here that we have for Kevin. So take a few minutes, folks. We'll have some cake here, and there's some ice cream and coffee if you'd like, okay? Yeah. Somebody else cut the cake, it's on her.
Right now?
Sorry about that. Congrats, sir.
Good to see you. Glad you showed up.
Hi, Jessica. How are you? Good.
Are you trying your makeup? You have to do
No, I
skills.
I was tripping hazard, so I decided to do it.
I in your shot?
You are.